All right. I let's go ahead and I'll pound the gavel and we'll get this meeting started. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right. Great. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right. It's unanimous.
Aye.
Thank you. Oh, back to Zoom land. Wonderful.
I know.
Well, before we launch into or pass the baton to you, Slade, thanks everyone for being flexible about moving this meeting to Zoom. With all the people traveling and kind of outside the area, this is the next best opportunity. So I'm glad that we're able to maintain progress with our agenda and our scheduled calendar, and also welcome guests today. So look forward to a productive meeting, and we'll go ahead and hand it over to you, Slade, for the next portion.
Great. Thank you, Toby, for again, kind of recognizing where we are in our situation with being remote. I'd like to humbly open the meeting with a land acknowledgement. The Puyallup people lived on these lands long before and during the colonization of the Americas and the westward expansion of the United States. They are part of the Salish-speaking people of the Pacific Northwest. The Puyallup tribe of Indians were forcibly relocated onto reservation lands in what is today Tacoma, Washington in late 1854 after signing the Treaty of Medicine Creek with the United States. Long before, their villages were scattered throughout the many islands, prairies, and rich valley country of the Pacific Northwest, where they existed by the bountiful gifts provided by the Creator. Historians often noted, because of the abundance of salmon and shellfish, that when the tides were out, the table was spread. In the old days, their name meant generous and welcoming behavior to all peoples, friends and strangers who entered their lands. Today, they have an enrolled population of 4,000, of whom 2,500 live on the reservation. Their particular dialect is called the Lushootseed. We recognize these indigenous people of the Salish Sea, their displacement, disposition, and continued presence. As we reflect on the past and move to the future, let us be reminded that our school district sits within the traditional lands of the Puyallup people. Today, we pay respect to the Puyallup tribe of Indians and to their elders past, present, and emerging.
Thank you, Slade. I think you mentioned that there was no public comment. Did anything come in via email beforehand, or?
Let's just double check with Peter.
Nothing came in.
All right, thank you. Slade, would you mind emailing me the land acknowledgement you just read? Having returned last night from a meeting in Canada, they're doing a similar tradition in a lot of their meetings, and so I thought it'd be really interesting to share with my colleagues what we do locally.
Absolutely.
Thank you. All right, off to you for the superintendent report.
Great. Once again, thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And thank you to our guests, Lee Marchizio and Ryan Swanson, for joining us as well. And first of all, I'd like to just give an enrollment update. Let me go ahead and pull it up. Kay sent this out early in October, so it feels a little bit later, but I'd like to just let the board know that once again, we projected a budget of 1425 in terms of enrollment. Right now, we are sitting at 1456. That was our October numbers, with an additional 31.68 above our budget, which is still good news. Most of that enrollment comes at the elementary school, who is currently 41.41 FTE above their projected enrollment, with the middle school a little down from their projected enrollment, down 1.24 FTE, in the high school up 3.38, and then Family Link up 5.21, and Student Link down 17.08. So again, and overall, we are up 31.68, and in just another week, we'll be into November, and then we'll be able to see where we sit in terms of November enrollment. But right now, everything is projecting well for the district. Next, I'd like to just bring the public and the board up to date on our solvency and sustainability planning. Mr. Cooper, just to recap, Mr. Cooper gave us a report from WASA 3 or so weeks ago. The Budget Advisory Board met, and it was shared with them that then Kay, and Amy and I would be moving forward with presenting a proposed plan to the Budget Advisory Board by our November 1st meeting. We sent out the proposed plan to both labor leaders and the Budget Advisory Board early this week on Monday, giving hopefully the Budget Advisory Board plenty of time to review it, to respond, to react. And we'll come back together on the 1st, which I believe is Tuesday, to share that plan formally and to hear from our stakeholders their reaction and ideas on how to improve that draft plan. That draft plan is not a feasibility plan, because the board has received this as well. It's really a plan right now that situates our kind of near and long-term goals along with some potential strategies. The work that will be done to realize that plan, to make it feasible, will most likely be done in the months of January, February, and March. And so again, I know the board has received that right now. And just to check in with the board, are there any kind of initial questions or reactions from yourselves as you've looked at it? Or are you kind of waiting to kind of see what happens with the Budget Advisory Board as we kind of present it to them in November? Because you'll be seeing this as a first read in the November 17th meeting.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
Can you guys hear me?
Perfect.
Okay. I do wonder, I understand that adding like feasibility at this stage is not really possible, but I wonder if there's a way we can add some sort of like summary of potential impacts of the plan to this first stage, just so people can be kind of thinking about possible solutions to some of the impacts that this plan might have.
I'll take that to the Budget Advisory Board. Absolutely.
Thank you.
I've read through the draft plan that you've shared, and it seems to be another way to summarize the WASA report, but aligning it with some different strategies, which seems to be a good framework to work with the Budget Advisory Board on. And so currently I'm in condition to kind of waiting for feedback from them, but I understand the background, so I feel prepared for any conversation.
Okay. Anything from either Marielle or Allison for me to consider?
I'd echo Toby. And Callie, I'm interested in the advisory board's feedback. I will say I do appreciate sort of the concrete, tangible actions we can take, but also I appreciate calling out the work we're trying to do to change the underlying root problems, which are ineffective and inefficient funding models from the state. So I appreciate those being called out in the draft as is, in addition to things that we're going to have to do as well.
Yeah, I'll appreciate the work that the advisory group also does with respect to the vashonification, I guess, of some elements of the recommendations in the report that don't account as much for what we know for those of us on the island, and for the interests of the students, specific to the qualities and characteristics of our district that a lot of other places don't share.
Thank you.
Appreciative of the work that happened and looking forward to next steps.
Thank you. Next up in my report is our school site visit, our principal report, and I'll I guess have to speak on behalf of Zabet, because it was Zabet and I and Rebecca who spent the morning with our school site visit at Chautauqua, and Rebecca is here this evening. So I'll let Rebecca actually kind of go first. And Rebecca, if you want to, you can kind of recap maybe our board site visit, but if there's any other additional happenings or news that you want to share from Chautauqua, let's use this as an opportunity as well.
Thank you. We had a nice site visit. It's nice when the school board visits, we talk a lot about kind of whatever questions come up and about what's new at the school and how things are going. So very similar to probably to our presentation this evening. We also had a chance to go out and see some classes and see Outdoor Tuesdays in action. And so it's always appreciated when people come and visit the school. In terms of talking about new things this year, we have had more enrollment than expected. As you know, like our enrollment's kind of been declining over the last 5 years as housing gets more expensive on the island and there are fewer rentals. We've seen some decrease. And so each year we balance how many kids we think we'll have with the number of teachers. And so like 4th grade only has 3 teachers this year, but 5th grade has 4 teachers. And so it does vary based on the number of students that live on the island. And we always have around 30 commuters. So that number has been fairly stable between, 27 and 35. And so it's really, our enrollment really varies based on the kids living on the island. And we see that difference in each year. So we did add a 4th kindergarten classroom because they're almost full with 20 in each class right now. And our other grade levels are all pretty full. So you see our enrollment is higher and we had this perfect staffing for it. So it's all aligned pretty well. With our new students coming on board, we had some students come in back from the pandemic that hadn't been in school for the last couple of years. And so that's been a new thing for some of our teachers, having older students who have really have not had much formal schooling. And we've also had some more students coming in without English speaking skills. And so our teachers are having some new experiences there. We have really strong systems of assessment for students. And so we have reading and math assessments that we do at the beginning of each year. Our multilingual learners have, English language assessments also that happen yearly, but mostly we have support systems in place for our students. And so that is our fall is about getting those up and running. And so math support is happening in classrooms with teacher leadership and then pair or intern support in the classroom. And our reading support program is still a pullout model working with a specific targeted reading intervention program. And so that's up and running well. And so these systems of support are really strong systems to support our students. And so that's wonderful to see them just up and going. And that's a real strength of Chautauqua is kind of knowing each student, seeing what their needs are, and then having programs to address those skills. That includes social emotional needs. And so we teach second step for social emotional learning in the classroom. And then we have support groups that are we'll start with those probably more in November with support groups in different grade levels and friendship skills and, depending on the needs of the students that we're seeing in classrooms, as well as all our special education supports. And so that's the challenge every year is we get new kids in and we need to figure out what their needs are and then how we're going to meet those needs. And so the first couple months of the school year are always us figuring out who is here and what their needs are and how to best meet their needs. And so I feel like we're kind of hitting our stride in that this year and excited to bring on some new programs like Outdoor Tuesdays. It's each grade level. It's a coordination with the Vashon Wilderness program, and each grade level comes out for half an hour throughout the day, in addition to their other, 2 or 3 recesses and lunch recess and stuff. And they're split up with mentors, and they get to choose a pathway that goes for 3 or 4 weeks. And so some are in the garden area, some are playing games, some are in the woods, and it's been a great start. And we continue to work on that with our teachers and that community collaboration. It's been wonderful. The
big question, Rebecca, is where are you going to put all the boots and jackets?
If you could see, if I turn the camera around, you can see the piles of them still in my office right now.
Mm-hmm.
I have most of them are on kids' feet right now, so that's good. So we, as part of the grant, we got a lot of ponchos donated. So as the grant includes, right now we have 150, but there's a few more coming, like ponchos available. So each classroom has 4 or 5 ponchos in case kids don't have coats. And then we have a rack. We're trying to get more racks actually to hang the ponchos. And so there's more, if a student needs to borrow a poncho for the day, they can borrow a poncho. And then we have about 45 pairs of boots for some of our students most in need to borrow boots while they're out there also. And so we've been matching feet to boots here in my office for last Tuesday. It was fast and furious.
Is it like a bowling alley where you have the spray and you gotta,
No, they get to keep the boots in their classroom for the school year.
okay.
And so they keep them once they fit them. So that's been really helpful. And a lot of our kids come well prepared for the outside, and they're used to being outside at recess in all weather. And that's not a new thing for us. It's just a half hour is it's a little bit longer to add that in addition to your recesses, and even when it's really raining. So that'll be new for us, but not super new for Vashon kids.
Great.
You're used to it.
Any questions that the board has for Rebecca?
Not a question, but as a mom of a first grader, I just want to give a huge shout out to the Outdoor Tuesdays. I'm very impressed with what my kiddo comes home with and how he talks about it and the different things he's exploring through that. So huge firsthand praise for that.
Wonderful. Thanks. One nice thing about it is the teachers are there too. So I think the Vashon Wilderness Program staff are learning like classroom management and behavioral. They're learning from our teachers, and then our teachers are learning outdoor skills from their mentors. And so it is really a two-way collaboration, which is really sweet to see.
Any other comments from the board or about Rebecca's report?
Thanks, Rebecca. I wanted to go do the site visit because Chautauqua is the school I probably see the least often these days. So I'll try to make it a point to be there before the next site visit.
Just let me know anytime.
Thanks. I love visiting it because it's such a vibrant school.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Then just thanks, Rebecca, for coming. And Rebecca, obviously you're welcome to stay for the entire meeting if you wish. I can see you're still in your office. So, but you're also welcome to, go home and eat dinner with your family.
That's true. I got to pick up my daughter from ballet at 6:45. So I'll check out in a little bit. Thank you.
Perfect. And then just in terms of upcoming events, we have a board work session on November 10th, where the board will be meeting with directors of our programs to review our program priority plans, similar to what we did with our principals and school improvement plans. November 17th will be our regular board meeting right before kind of the Thanksgiving fall holidays. And then we then move into December, where we'll have a work session early December. And that work session will be around board superintendent relationships, board development, and also we'll do my mid-year evaluation. And then on the 15th, we'll have our board meeting where we will take action. I'll ask the board to take action on the solvency and sustainability plan. At the November meeting will be the big one. The big action that we'll be asking the board to take will be around the bond, which will have a first read tonight. So those are kind of the top kind of events coming up. Also, in terms of the annual WISD conference, Zabet and Maura and I will be traveling along with Thomas. We'll be traveling on the 17th as well. Maybe the evening of, I forget, but I forget the exact dates of WISD, but we'll be traveling for WISD, the WISD conference. I'm looking forward to that. Looking forward to having a student rep travel with us as well. So that's exciting. And we'll be kind of jumping into the planning for that pretty soon. So, but that will kind of end my superintendent report, Toby. And then I believe Maura is with us tonight as well.
Great. Is the WASDA conference, is it in Spokane this year?
Right, it is in Spokane. So we'll be doing the long drive over.
The trek. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Throw your snow tires on. Maura, if you're here, we'll pass it on to you for the student board representative remarks.
Okay, hi. I hope everyone can hear me.
Perfect.
Okay, great. Today we didn't have a meeting because Slade felt a little sick. But I had just like a little mini conference with like some of the students. And the two big things that we're talking about right now is we want to create a time for like 2 to 3 minute one-on-one check-ins with your smart teacher, just so we can kind of have in the day a time with like one-on-one teacher-student time, just for the teacher to get to know you a little bit more, because smart teachers are traditionally, you have them for all 4 years and you want to sort of bond with them, and so just strengthening that, which is part of our like student faculty like relationships and like trust, like building that kind of stuff. And then the other thing we talked about was a lot of my freshmen in the group were feeling a little bit like they wanted to know about college in their freshman year, which I thought was interesting. And they wanted to know like, what classes am I supposed to be taking, and like what things do I need to know, and just like advice and stuff like that. So that was interesting. So we were thinking about maybe doing an event that gives freshmen and lower classmen advice, or even like juniors advice about college, so it's not just crammed into like the first 2 months of senior year. And I think that theme is echoed right now. Like a lot of the seniors are feeling like, oh my gosh, I really didn't know that you have to have like 3 letters of recommendation, and I didn't know that you have to, fill out all these forms. And so, yeah, there's definitely a theme of that. And this week is college week. It's the first deadline is November 1st for early decision and early action. So a lot of people are doing college applications and trying to get everything done, and doing student aid forms and stuff like that. Homecoming was last weekend and it went great. I think there was a record amount of turnout. Like in the past 10 years, it was like the most attended dance or whatever. So that's great. And people had a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that's really what's going on at VHS.
Was the dance at the high school?
Yeah, it was at the high school. We were like thinking about a lot of different venues, but just based on how many people were buying tickets, we realized that most of our venues, like we looked at the like the Vashon Events place, but it was just like too small. I think there was like 300 something tickets sold or something like that. I could be wrong, but I think that's around the number, which is like really, really good. So yeah, it was great. Yeah.
Awesome.
Toby and I had a chance to be at the homecoming game.
Oh yeah.
That was a little wet.
Yeah, that was, I wouldn't say that was as much of a success as the dance was, but yeah.
Right. So we look forward to next year, and but with all the student participation that I saw more, it's been very exciting. And I heard the dance was a great hit, and so I know you spent time I think you're part of the planning committee and all, involved in all that. So hopefully that's you're able to balance. What's the balance like? That's what I'm kind of wondering, as a senior.
It's hard, but it's going good. Like, I think I just, I wish seniors had told me like, don't take 5 AP classes, pace yourself. So hopefully I can give that advice and pass it on to other people. But yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And thanks for being able to respond to my last minute notice this morning with not being able to be there. So I appreciate you kind of getting together with with those who were able to meet, and like I said, I'll connect with you probably tomorrow or Monday, and we'll have a plan for November.
Oh, also one last thing, we had our first student link participant come today, which was really
Oh.
great. And I got to meet them, and I think they're a really good perspective on like the different lives of students on Vashon. So yeah.
Oh, that's great. That's
Yeah.
great news. Just let the board know, Maura has been very, she's just been very intentional about getting a variety and diversity of voices on the student advisory board. So we're, as we move on, year to year, this year is just another signal about how we see, kind of student leadership stepping up and raising up student voice. So thanks, Maura. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thanks for the update. Next up is board member remarks. So let's start with Allison, because I see you on camera, and then we'll go to Callie after that.
Thanks, Toby. I don't have much other than energy feels good. I was on the ferry Saturday evening after a trip, and saw a number of folks coming over from off island to go to homecoming. So that was exciting to see a lot of folks, a lot of students commuting on. Yeah, appreciate the work on the sustainability and the financial planning. Look forward to the board advisory. I'm sorry I can't stay on for the whole meeting. I've got a commitment off island with my kiddo tonight, and so look forward to the conversation about the bond first read. Feel really positive about the direction we're headed and where we landed there. So I'll give my comments about that now, and I'm supportive of where we landed and the projects that we've included there, and look forward to the second reading conversation next month as well. And thank you, Principal Gritzel, for your update. Yeah, I think that's what I've got. And thanks all. Sorry for having to leave early tonight.
Yeah, thanks, Allison. So we'll go to Callie and then Marielle after Callie.
Hi. Oh, well, I'm calling from the Dominican Republic, and I really, really appreciate the flexibility and accessibility that the move to Zoom has provided for me, at least. So thank you, everyone. And don't mind the motorcycles going by me. I have kind of bad connection. But no, so basically my remark that I have been thinking about is that's been on my mind a lot, and that I've been kind of discussing with different board members and the superintendent, is just the kind of the balance between that we kind of have to walk as board members between our own personal beliefs and then our public persona and like community representation, because like as a board member, part of our job is being a conduit to community concerns and priorities and stuff like that. So I just want to use this space to put out another, solicitation that, we as the board, and I think everyone in the district is always very interested to hear from about anything that that is affecting you or impacting you. And what else? Yeah, that the perspectives that we hear are super valuable to us making decisions, and that we all really care about this place and the kids. And so yeah, email, call, meet me in Dominican Republic or the Thriftway aisle, But yeah, I just really appreciate everybody that takes the time to email, but I know that not everybody can email. So we as a board and have been talking about other ways to make sure that we're kind of hitting all the different places, like having our community forums that a couple people attended, and putting out stuff in the Beachcomber, and then just being involved community members with our community that we love. So yeah, keep it up, keep connecting. We're all here and connected, even from the Caribbean. So yeah, thanks.
Thanks, Callie. And you're coming through. The quality of the audio is good, and really happy you were able to join us tonight from so far away. Marielle, do you have any comments tonight?
Back, involved after a bit of a personal leave, and appreciate all the work that the board members and district folks have carried forward. Sounds like this year is getting off to a really strong start.
Well, glad that you're here tonight. Thank you for joining. I'm just looking forward to the next couple of days, the celebration of Dia de los Muertos at VCA Sunday. I'm going to try to attend that. It's Sunday or Saturday. I'll have to go back, look at my calendar. I've done that before, and it's super fun. And of course, the Halloween festivities on Vashon. It seems like it's our Super Bowl holiday on Vashon, which, by the way, when I was a little kid, Halloween was a terrible holiday here because there was no central activities uptown. It was, you go to the neighbor's house a quarter mile away, get one candy bar, and you were done. So it's a fun time of year outside of school, but obviously involving school-age kids. And it was fun to be at the homecoming football game in the Vashon tradition, the pouring rain, and to see the band and the floats and the newly painted stands, and the spirit felt great. So that's what I have from my perspective. Right, next up is the fiscal year end report. So we'll pass the torch to Kay.
Thank you, Toby. I sent this out. I will have the year-end booklet done probably by next week. I'm just finalizing it, making sure everything's correct before I send it out to you guys. But I wanted to give you a quick update because I just got our F-196 approved by the ESD last Friday. So these will be our year-end figures. We'll start with the revenue. We did have an increase in revenue of 7.93%. That is mostly from the ESSER funds, return to learn, and enrollment stabilization that we received. And also the fact that lunches were free and we were being paid by the federal government for all those lunches. So that was the increase in that fund. The next one, capital. There was an increase in the capital because we were receiving more delinquent and prior year levy taxes. During the pandemic, we dropped off a little and people are now back to paying their taxes. I think the economy, at least we're getting the money back, which is nice. It was a hard time for a lot of people. Debt service is debt service. It's all based on an amortization schedule. We have no control over that. ASB is up because guess what? We were in person. So that makes a big difference for ASB. And it was so nice to see all the functions for ASB and to have the students back. Transportation is just the depreciation that the state sets for us. Any questions on the revenue before we go to expenditures?
I want to maybe put a point on the debt service. When Washington State residents don't pay their taxes, that actually impacts us too, right? We don't receive the tax revenue, yet we budget for that. And so that's it's one of those surprises that happens, and we have to be able to adjust along the way because most of our expenses are fixed. So that's an example of where the fund reserve is crucial for us maintaining cash flow. And so just as an example, when that was happening, I was chatting with people in the community, they didn't understand that if our neighbors in Omak or Aberdeen or on Vashon don't pay their taxes, we don't get as much money that we would normally get.
Correct.
So.
Yep. Now we're down to the expenditures. As you see, we did have an increase in the expenditures in general fund, which we were predicting. Back in May, I gave you guys a little heads up that yes, we were going to have higher expenditures. Part of it was because of the pandemic, increase in leave and sub pay because of people having to take the quarantine time off. Also, the increase in food service just for the extra staff and for the food cost. We actually resumed bus service, which increased our expenditures from the prior year. And of course, the normal raises and everything else happened. Plus, we were going to have a staffing decrease in 21-22, but that didn't happen. In fact, we had staffing increase. And that's one reason the expenditures went up in the general fund. The next fund, capital, there was an increase. That just is all based on the projects that we get done for Cap Tech. And we completed a lot of projects, which were great. And also with the Chromebook purchases we made and other things that's out of the Cap Tech, which is in the capital fund. Debt service, that has to do with our payments that we are scheduled to pay. That is all controlled. They come out of our account. That's what we pay. The state sets that. ASB, of course, is up because we had functions, which is great. The students actually got to participate, play sports, do everything they normally do with the in-person learning. Transportation, no expenditures because we didn't buy a bus, any type of bus. And that's the only thing that fund can be used for. Then any questions on expenditures? Okay, now we'll go down to the ending fund balance. As I stated back in May, I think we were going to be lucky to make 5%. We are right at 5% on our fund balance, right at 5%. In fact, I think my year-end projection is only $11,000 off, which I'm very happy with. So we did take a dip in our reserves, about 261,000, which we knew back in May was going to happen. As we saw things happening, we knew it was going to happen. There's nothing we could have done about it at that time. Capital, the fund balance went up a little, which is nice. We had one big project that didn't get billed out at the end of the year. It was the CSE lighting. It's about 120,000. If that would have been built out, we would have been right on track. So debt service, of course, it increases because of our Q-STAB payment we get to keep every year until we have to pay the full sum in 25. ASB, there was an increase because we actually collected ASB fees, which was great. And the transportation will increase because of the depreciation payment, and we'll have to save up to buy a bus. You know, right now, we're saving as much as we can in that fund. So maybe in another 3-4 years, we'll be able to buy a bus.
Looks like you're halfway there.
I know, it's sad. Okay. And then if you go down, I broke out the expenditures by category for you. So you'll see all the different categories that went up. Of course, salaries, certified salaries went up. Basic raises, plus we didn't decrease staffing. And we also had the 3 roving subs last year because we had such a sub shortage. We hired 3 people just so they could fill in when we didn't have any subs. Classified went up. Raises and step increases, plus the additional staff we needed when the students came back to learning. There was a lot of, how can you put it nicely? I don't know. They just needed extra support. Some students really needed extra support, and that was provided to them. Benefits actually went down, and that is because the sub rate dropped last year. So it was mostly because of the medical benefits dropped. Materials and supplies went up. We were back in person. So in 2021, of course, we were only in session, for 2 months. So the supplies were a lot lower. This 21-22, it was all year. It's just your basic supplies, from your custodial supplies, bathroom supplies, teaching supplies. That's why that went up by 48%. Contract services went up. I have a lovely list here. That is mostly because of the bus for student, because we're providing bus services again. The contracts we had to get for we had a special ed teacher that had to go on contract. We had OT on contract, and risk pool went up again. So just your basic contract services. Utilities went up. And then travel went up because we actually could go to conferences. People could go places this last year, and professional development. That's where most of that is. And capital purchases, we did one capital purchase. It's just something you purchase over $5,000. It has to go in a capital line. And any questions on that? Oh, good. And the last one is our ending fund balance. Our turf reserve is now 175,000. It'll go up 200 to 210 this year when I transfer the money. The food inventory, Lisa has to do inventory of all her leftover supplies, plus that's also prepaids. And that's a reserve line we have to have with the state to show her inventory and what we prepaid for the year. The next one is our minimum fund balance. And right there, that 1,308,000 is exactly 5%. So we are within the resolution, which is wonderful. We made it to that. And then if you put it all together, you get the 1,523,333. I'm concerned, we do have to raise that. We really need to raise that because come April, it was hard to make all the bills with the 1.7. So we're trying to be very diligent and watching the fund balance and watching the income coming in and the expenditures going out right now to make sure we're going to be able to make the bills in April. And that's your year end.
I have a question about the calculation of the 5%. Does that include the field turf reserve?
No.
Okay, that's what it means.
I base it all on the minimum, the uncommitted amounts.
Yeah.
Because those are a reserve for different purposes and they can't be used for anything else.
Right.
So our 5% is in the minimum fund balance line. And that's isolated out on your F-196, on your end of the year report.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions? I should get the booklet out to you next week, the completed book. So you guys will get that. If you have any questions, please reach out to me. And if you see anything that you want, you know, more explanation, I'm happy to answer it for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kay. You know, just to kind of also
Thank
shout
you.
out to, oh, sorry, go ahead. Was that Allison?
I think it was Callie saying thanks to
I was
Kay.
just saying thank you.
The year end, it really takes months of work, you know, between Kay, one and everybody else in our business office, Tiffany, Amy. It's just a significant lift, and it's not uncommon for our office staff to be working in the year, looking at next year, and then resolving last year's as well. So it seems like 3 or 4 months of the year, they're actually working in 3 years at a time. So thank you very much for your leadership and your team's overall efforts too. It really pays off and it shows.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Just next, I'd like to introduce, we have 2 guests this evening. We have Ryan Swanson from Piper Sandler, and we have Lee Marchizio from Foster Gallagher. And Ryan will be taking the first part of the presentation this evening with a similar similar document that he presented to the board on June 9th. And then Lee will then we'll open up for the floor for questions, etc. And then Lee will work with will show the work that Foster Gallagher has been doing with our bond resolution. He and Jim have been working with Kay on that document, and once again, kind of working, you know, walking the board through that document, and then being available for any questions as we do this the first read. Again, this November 17th has been signaled as the date where the board will take action on this document, and then after which, if the board takes action and approves the resolution, we'll submit it to King County elections. And then, of course, there's a lot of work to be done between that time and the actual election date of February 14th. So, Ryan, thank you very much for joining us again. And then thank you, Lee, also for joining us as well.
appreciate it. The introduction was wonderful. Very, very nice. And Toby, I can commiserate. I remember trudging in boots and a costume about a mile to get to the closest house. And those small candy bars, it was still worth it, but that was tough. Thank you all for being here as well. I tried to make this presentation very similar. I essentially took the presentation from June, and we'll go through that so that we can just see what's transitioned since that time. So Peter, would you mind going to the next page? And again, I should introduce myself. I am Ryan Swanson. I'm with Piper Sandler. I represent the firm that will work as a liaison between the district, should the voters approve the bonds, and the investors then who would ultimately provide or service the loan for those bonds should you guys go forward and do it. That's my role, and help with the math along the way. So if you remember, it's cut off here, but on the top of this page, this is what you saw on June 9th in the district, or June 2nd. And the board was considering 3 different size capital projects plans, roughly 17 million, 19.5 million, and 27.5 million. I'll draw your attention to the bolded number there. Assessed value growth is key in calculating future tax rates. And in 2022, calendar year 2022, there was significant growth on the island at 17.5% growth. Not knowing the future, we were conservative in our estimates going forward at that time, and we thought, all right, 2023, we know it'll go up, but let's be something more realistic, or more, not realistic, but more conservative. We assume 5% growth. In 24, 4% growth. And from 25 and on, we assume 3% growth. And the reason that is that you never want to overestimate how big the tax base will get, because if it doesn't actually achieve that, you will not be able to complete or adhere to the promises you make to the citizenry regarding the bonds. So those 3 different structures, of course, the tax rate in 2022 is already set and established. That's what people are paying taxes on right now. And that was $1.05 per thousand. Given those assessed value assumptions and knowing that the district would not, the levy amounts that the district would put forth for 2023, which had already been approved by the voters, and the board will take action on those, I believe, on the 17th as well. But Kay or Slade, you can correct me on that. Knowing those values, we projected that the rate would have been $1.03 in 2023. In 2024, which is of course the year that the bonds, if approved, would actually impact citizens, the various packages range from $1.20 for the smallest to $1.33 for the largest. I'm going to draw your attention to Vashon 232. You can see that's very close to the package that was determined, and the differential in the 23 and 24 rate was about 20 cents per thousand. So what voters are paying right now, we projected they would pay about 20 cents per $1,000 of assessed value in 2024 should the bonds pass. Peter, can we go to the next slide? So since June, things have changed. You guys, of course, have picked a package. Congratulations. That's awesome. That's a big, big part of the process, if not the biggest part. We have the new par amount. It's almost identical. Of course, the 22 rate was fixed. Assessed value. We have preliminary values from King County. They're showing that AB on average across the island will go up 28.25% in 23. What does that do for taxes? Well, you'll see there the projected rate, if you remember, it was $1.04 prior, but with that AB growth, the amounts are fixed. The amounts that the district are going to collect next year have already been approved by the voters. Those will not change. So that projected tax rate drops all the way down to 84 cents. If we keep the other future year assessed value assumptions the same, the new bonds, when they hit in 24, that rate would be $1.04. And the thing to really pay attention to is the differential in what people would pay on top of what they're already paying is still 20 cents per thousand of assessed value. Any questions on that? Because that is kind of the crux. A lot of folks, when they hear about massive assessed value growth, they worry, oh my gosh, my taxes are going to go up substantially. For school districts, that's not true. The voters approve amounts, you collect amounts. And just like the debt service for bonds that was approved in the past, that debt service was fixed at the time it was sold. It does not change from year to year. So simply you collect what you need to pay your bills when it comes to bonds. All right, I don't see any hands going up. So Peter, may we have the next slide? What I've done here is I've put together just a chart that would show what that annual dollar figure impact would be for a range of assessed values on homes. I started at 350,000, went up to $1 million just because I like million is a nice round number, but I'll draw your attention to the 800,000 or 850,000, actually 850,000 line item. Looking at the various websites and county information that's available, the median home value or resale value for homes on the island right now is approximately $850,000. It's some people are lower, some people are higher. So for the average or median home currently on the island, this would raise an individual's taxes or an individual homeowner's taxes by approximately $169 a year or $14 a month. That's in addition to what you're already paying for bonds. Next slide, Peter. As Slade said, you intend to adopt this resolution at the next board meeting on November 17th. That is in plenty of time to meet the filing resolution deadline of December 16th. I won't go into this too much because Lee is probably going to cover some of this as well, I suspect, but you're on track. Next slide, Peter. Lee is, I'm going to steal Lee's thunder again, so I won't talk about this too much, but this is the highlights or the major milestones that you're going to need to hit, and you are obviously right on track. By in October, November, the board is considering the plan and going to put it forth. I will say Slade and Kay will have a little bit more work. The board will not, but there will be documentation that needs to be done regarding explanatory statements and other things regarding the election that we will need their help with, and Lee will go into greater detail on that. Peter, next slide. Again, this is the June presentation, so I always want you to be able to see what the historic results have been for all your elections. So if you're ever out and you have somebody asking a question, you can refer back, but this is just what has happened prior regarding bond elections and capital project elections for the district. And Peter, the next slide. EP&O and transportation levy elections. So this is the history going back to the early 90s for all the elections for the school district. Next slide. Historical levy rates. So in June, I was able to go back to 2001 through 2022, again, with the current preliminary assessed value for the district and knowing what the collection amounts are intended to be for next year. Those are the estimated tax rates that I put forward for all the levies for the bonds. And again, I'll draw your attention to the bottom right corner. You can see in 21, the total tax rate was 288, and there was that large jump in assessed value. Well, because the amounts to be collected were set, what that resulted in was a significant decline in the actual rate. Again, next year, the amounts are set. We know what they are. With that increase, a large increase in value, it will drop the total rate. So I'm belaboring the point, but a massive increase in assessed value does not mean a massive increase in actual tax collections. Next page. Again, 2022 comparisons for all King and Kitsap school districts, just so you have it in your back pocket. You've seen this before. Peter, next slide. This is the same comparison. School districts, the 20 school districts around Washington State that have the most similar assessed value to Vashon and where you guys rank in 2022. I will, of course, update these things for 2023, but the counties won't have that information together until probably February or March of next year. So if I can, I try and have this information available by, unfortunately, it won't be until after the election, but I will try and get it as fast as I can. Next slide. Assessed value history. As I mentioned before, assessed value is very important in calculating the tax rate, but this is just giving you a long-term and a bottom left corner near term what has happened to the assessed value over the last few years. I didn't put slides in, but I'll speak anecdotally in anticipation of potential questions. A lot of you have heard that the interest rate environment is rising, both for consumers on mortgages, but likewise in our industry, in the municipal market, we have seen interest rate rise. The numbers that I put forward in this presentation include that rise in rates that has already occurred, and I have included a buffer for what could happen in the coming months. So even if the Fed meeting that happens next week and if the Fed does something drastic and the market overreacts to it, we still have a considerable amount of room in our projections to accommodate and make sure that we still can hit that increase of 20 cents per thousand that we will communicate to the voters. So we are, while rates are going up, we're in a very good position to be able to keep that commitment. And that is my presentation. Are there any questions from the board or Edmund? All right. Oh,
I just want to say thank you for belaboring that point. And I still don't really get it. Is it if the property values go up a ton, there's no way that the tax amount can go up because it's capped at the certain amount that the voters vote in. Is that right?
that's it in a nutshell. So the voters approved an EPNO collection amount. You're not allowed to collect more than that. Actually, you can get rolled back depending on your enrollment and or the projected tax rate. And you guys are capped at enrollment, correct me, Kay? Or actually, no, you're at the voter approved amount.
We're at 2,500 per student.
You are, okay, all right. There you go. So that, yes, again, so that amount is locked in. If assessed value goes up, that amount stays the same. But what that does is it results in a lower tax rate. Same thing for the bond debt service. When you guys, all the debt that you currently have outstanding, it was sold in the past, it is fixed, it will not change. So that amount carries forward. If assessed value goes up, same amount, lower tax rate. I do need to say though, if you approve new debt, like we are considering, there will be an increase. And we estimate that increase would be 20 cents per thousand, which refers back to the slide of the various home values. So 850,000, about $170 a year.
Yes, I also very much appreciated all of those visual slides. Thank you.
Excellent.
I found this useful in communicating, you know, when we go promote the approval of the bond, and if we're meeting with people at Thriftway or IGA or wherever, this information comes in really handy. And honestly, it tickles my my MBA finance concentration. I'm like, oh, this is great. No, it's super thorough. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
If I may too, if any of you, when you're out and you're getting questions, if you have any concerns or about the clarity of how you're delivering it, or in the communication that the district is going to put forth, please bounce it off, give it to Slade, give it to Kay, and bounce it off myself and Lee or his partner, Jim McNeil. We would much rather review what you're going to present to make sure that it is consistent with where the world landscape is lying, than have you all sort of feeling like you have to give a response and you're not exactly sure what the correct one is. So if you do have any moments of hesitation, do not hesitate to call and ask, and we'll make sure you're informed.
We've talked about creating an FAQ, anticipating some common questions, you know, those related to, you know, interest rate uncertainty, inflation, assessed value changes, and things that you've addressed here. And we'll try to condense those into, you know, really plain language, easy to digest talking points. And then of course we have this as additional detail.
Absolutely. And Lee, correct me if I'm wrong, we would love to see that so we can weigh in on the verbiage. You don't have to have script, but if you do have script, it helps.
Absolutely.
And with that, then, if there's no more questions,
Right, sounds like a perfect segue. Thanks for joining us, Lee.
Great. Yep. Thank you, Slade. Members of the board, happy to be here on behalf of my firm, Foster Garvey, and then my colleagues Jim McNeil and Nancy Nearis, who worked, you know, with the district in the past, and Jim currently, of course. So we serve as bond counsel to the district. So we help the district ensure that every step that it takes to issue bonds for capital projects are valid, correct, so everything is properly authorized. Now, as you know, school districts, you know, typically finance major capital projects with borrowings, which are evidenced by bonds. And for major capital projects, it's voted bonds that are backed by excess property tax levies. And Ryan spoke about those in detail. So that's what we're doing here today with this first reading of resolution number 805, which we call a bond election resolution. State law requires that the board adopt a resolution that requests King County Elections to conduct an election for the purpose of submitting this bond measure to the voters. As Ryan covered already, the deadline for filing the resolution is December 16th. So we're well on track for that. The board's scheduled to adopt or to consider for adoption this resolution on the 17th of November. So there's plenty of time to review this and provide comments. And then again, the election date itself is February 14th. So the resolution itself, I think, all portions of the resolution are very important to us. But I would like to note 2 or 3 sections. Section 1A, would scroll down, please. Thank you. So section 1A is, these are in the recitals, and this section really sets forth the theme of the projects and why this borrowing is needed. And so we've outlined this here. You can take a look at it, and this theme will carry through the resolution to the ballot measure itself. And these are factual findings that the board is going to make, and it lays the foundation for the projects and why they're needed at this time.
Lee, does this restrict us in the future on how to use those funds? I know right now we're trying to be accurate and comprehensive about why we're borrowing the money, what we're going to do with it. But along the way, let's say we were really efficient at doing a part of the project, we have a balance left over, and we think, oh, you know what, let's go ahead and finish a tennis court or something that's not on the list, or replace windows or something.
Yeah, that's a great question. This does restrict the projects that you can do to those authorized and specifically noted here and then in the resolution and in the ballot title. However, state law does provide for school districts a specific process where you can come back, hold a public hearing, and if there are changed conditions or circumstances, if you need to do a different project or divert money to other places, you can go ahead and hold that hearing and make that determination and change the use of those proceeds. So that is an available remedy for school districts.
The flip of that question is, we're stating here what we intend to do with the money. If we have an unfortunate surprise while we're in the project and we have a major cost overrun on one of these items and therefore couldn't do the whole list, how do we handle that?
Yeah, that's another great question. The voter approval of the project doesn't require you to accomplish all of them. And that is not, unfortunately, isn't an uncommon occurrence with cost overruns, particularly in the last year or two on projects like these. And the resolution expressly provides that you don't have to accomplish all of them, but you accomplish those that in the board's best judgment, they want to move forward with.
All right. Great. Well, our intent is to accomplish these items.
Yes, absolutely.
Cool. Thank you. I appreciate that insight.
Yeah, of course. Great questions. Thank you for asking those. So that section 1A is, again, the theme of the resolution and the theme of the projects. And then if you'll scroll down to section 2, this is the actual description of the projects in detail. And you can review these. If you have any questions or feedback, please let us know, and get those comments to Kay and Slade, and they'll pass them on to us, and we'll work on them. But these are the specific projects, and again, state law does require that for a voted measure, for voted bonds, that the projects be specified in the measure that will be funded. So as you'll see when we get to the last section I want to highlight, which is section 9, what the voters do authorize are, they authorize the projects, the amount of the borrowing and the term, and then the excess property taxes to pay them, the bonds specifically, and that's right there. So this is the form of ballot title, and this is what the voters will see on the ballot. Just a couple of technicalities when you're looking at this and reviewing it, and state law has a specific form for this ballot title. The first sentence, which is the concise description or summary, and then the second sentence, which is much longer. The first sentence is limited to 10 words after the word concerning. So yeah, it's in state statute. And then in the second sentence, everything after the word would, the third word would, is limited to 75 words. Under our current formulation, we are 9 out of 10 words in that first sentence after concerning, and we are 75 out of 75 words in the second sentence. So any additions would likely require a subtraction somewhere.
Like a well-crafted tweet.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You can't borrow $20 million on a tweet though. So luckily. Any questions on any of these materials in the resolution? Now what I've covered are just the projects and the borrowing amount and the ballot title. There are a host of other provisions that if you have any questions on, I'd be happy to address.
I've read the resolution, and previously, we approved the level, and within that level of funding were a list of projects. But what I haven't done is done a side-by-side comparison. I assume that more than one person on the district team has done that. Okay.
Yeah, and thank you to Slade and Kay for all the analysis on the projects, and the board has reviewed the various proposals and picked the option for this that's reflected in this resolution, and all of that good work went into those selections to make sure that the amount matches the projects. Absolutely.
Cool.
So as Ryan mentioned, with this resolution, once the board adopts the resolution, then we would prepare an explanatory statement, and that will go in the voter's pamphlet. It's limited to 250 words in King County, and that explanatory statement is required to be drafted and produced by your attorneys, which we would serve in that capacity in this role. And of course, that explanatory statement is, we look at and receive comments from, Slade and Kay and others at the district, and even the board, if you'd like to look at that as well. We can get you drafts of that for comment. So the explanatory statement goes in the voter's pamphlet. And then along with that, the board will need to appoint for and against committees for the proposition, if you've seen those in the ballot and voters pamphlets recently. It's a new state law just last year that all local governmental measures have to have a for and against committee statement. And you have to use good efforts to find individuals who are known to support and known to oppose the measure, and appoint them, 3 of those individuals to each committee. Often we're finding throughout the state that districts can't identify people who are against the projects, and that's okay. If no one comes forward to oppose it, you certainly don't have to, twist any arms. And then that responsibility falls to the elections department, and then they'll try and do the same. And if they can't find anyone, it won't happen. And that's why you might see in voters pamphlets that it just says no statement submitted, and that's it's not uncommon.
I recommend that someone on our team go back and look at the past 2 or 3 bonds and see if we've had any opposing representative, people opposing it that could write an against statement.
Yeah, you could look. It very well may be that the district, it was used to be optional to participate in the voters pamphlet at all. And so it could be that there was just no explanatory statement or pro-con committee submitted at all. But there's no harm in taking a look to see what you can find.
I know we had one in the past, and the statement was great in terms of working in our favor.
There you go. Looks like
Ryan.
Ryan.
Sorry to interject. I just wanted to clarify with Lee the district's responsibility is to put forth a good faith effort to identify someone that would want to submit. And if they are failed, then the county would of course follow that up. They do not have to, I just want to make it very clear, they do not have to, like you said, twist someone's arm to submit something. And I will say there is a gentleman that submitted no statements for a large number of not just bond, but every levy that school districts have run for the last couple of years. So I would not be surprised if you will wind up, if you guys are unable to find someone locally, when the county puts forth, I would expect that individual to put something in. And unfortunately, it's very boilerplate. So if you have the opportunity to read ballots from around the state, most people don't, because you get your packet and that's what you vote on. I think Lee, you've probably seen those as well.
Yeah.
He's probably done a third of the no statements around the state so far this year.
And so that would be from someone out of the district.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's a really good reminder, Ryan. Yeah, it is an individual who submitted several no statements across the state. Some counties have put in their jurisdictional manual or rules that only individuals from a district can submit a statement. I can't recall if King County has done that or not. I don't believe so.
I don't think so. I can't remember for sure either, but I believe this person has submitted for some other issues in the county.
The other unfortunate thing about this individual's methods are that he doesn't go to the districts and talk to the board and ask for appointment in that regard. So the districts are unaware of whether or not someone is going to come forward and seek appointment to one of those committees. And he goes directly to the county. So you really only see it when the voters pamphlet comes out.
Okay.
That's not meant to be a bummer news. It's just to alert you that it's out there.
No, it's good. It's good to know.
You're not alone. It has happened prolifically for the last. Well, actually, it's getting more and more prolific over the last 2 years. So
Interesting.
Other questions from the board, or are there other parts of the resolution, Lee, that you will follow up? Anyone follow up with?
Those were the highlights I wanted to make. Happy to answer any questions, and if you think of any afterwards, please feel free to forward them on through Slade or Kay. I'd be happy to address them.
Great. So thank you again. Go ahead, Toby.
I was just going to say I asked my questions during the session. So unless Callie or Marielle have anything, then I think we can move on. Appreciate Lee and Ryan, you guys being here tonight.
You bet.
Thank you very much. Enjoy your evening.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan. Thanks, Lee.
And I can stick around for the levy certification too, if that would be good. Thanks.
Okay, go ahead, Toby. I guess I'm next.
Yeah, next up is the discussion around a new policy or policy revision here.
Right, so it's a brand new policy provided by WASDA as essential 3424. In summary, allowing the district to provide opioid-related overdose reversal medicines at our high schools. And just to clarify, high schools for us, because typically folks think that we have one high school, we have essentially two. We have our Vashon High School, and then we have Student Link, which is our alternative learning high school. And so this allows the district again to provide overdose, reversal medication to combat overdoses of opioids. So provided by a school nurse, other trained personnel, or designated people. So any questions from the board or discussion on from the board at this point in time?
So it's actually something we investigated probably 4 or 5 years ago. So it's interesting now to see that the state is recommending policies accordingly and providing some structure to allow us to proceed with this. People don't like to think that this could happen. in our community, and it does. And it could be an adult or a student or an accident or something, but I think this is just smart for us to be prepared and have a policy that guides us in that regard.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
My only comment is I don't love the like exemption of obligation. Is there a way to further define like what a good faith effort is to maintain it? Because is it just like an email to a donation source and be like, oh no, that donation source says they're all out, so that was our effort? Or is it like you have to do more to try to get this?
I think what it means, we're not going to have any problem getting the medication. And so I think it might be, an opt out for smaller districts in perhaps regions of the state that may have access issues, but for us, it's not going to be an issue.
Okay, yeah, that was my only concern, is like, I think we need to have this.
Right. It's not going to, I don't anticipate any need to use that.
All right, so this is the first read. This will come to decision for adoption next board meeting.
Yes.
Thank you. All right, so next up on the agenda are the decision items. Slade will
I'll
keep you rolling.
Right, I'll just kind of move through them. If we remember correctly, Tara Vanslow presented the comprehensive school transition plan at the last board meeting. This is our second reading. If there are no other questions, I'd recommend the board take action and approve the VISD comprehensive school counseling transition plan.
Is there a motion to approve the school comprehensive school counseling transition plan? Callie, are you making the motion to approve it?
I move to approve the school comprehensive school council.
The transition plan. Thank you. Marielle, was that a second? We're having a little bit of audio issues. Could you confirm that that's a second?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing Marielle's button go on mute.
Oh yeah. I move. So moved. I could be breaking up.
So we got Callie as a first. I can be a second.
Her audio stopped working, she said.
Okay.
She can go ahead and text with me, I guess.
I don't think we can I don't think we can do it officially unless we get a verbal, but from a timeline perspective, that we could delay.
We can move all these decisions to the November 17th meeting.
I think unless there's an urgent reason why we have to pass them tonight, I think just for the order of business and doing it properly, that would be best.
Well, we do need to approve the consent agenda though. So let me see if we can't.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to text with Marielle and see if we can't get her to maybe call back in.
Sounds good.
Oh, she just said she'd try. Okay. Looks like she left us.
The joys of Zoom. Just still feels like a miracle that we can do this at all. Kevin, are you comfortable if we move the surplus resolution to the next meeting?
Sounds good.
Well, if we can get her back, then, I mean, we'll do everything if we can get her back.
Okay. No. I'm just looking at the other items here.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, Kay.
Well, while we're waiting, I'd like to thank the country club for the generous donation for the golf team. That's in one of the consent agenda items. I know sometimes when we approve the consent agenda in whole, we forget to acknowledge the donations from different community folks, and that's always a good place to go.
I'll give it a few more minutes before I text back to Mario.
Okay.
I'm sure she's restarting things. Yeah.
Our connection is tenuous at best, so I like to be on camera usually so I can feel like an active participant, but I assure you I'm actively participating over here.
Well, yeah, you win awards by attending from the Dominican Republic. Motorcycles and all.
Oh, I also just realized that you and I can't just like second each other because we have to have 3 people to have a quorum.
Yep, that's right.
I get it now. The light bulb goes off.
Mhm. Kay, before you physically print the end of your financial update, the booklet, could I help by taking a real quick read of that? When I was looking at the things that you're presenting earlier, I thought a footnote on one of them might help a reader understand the comparisons a little better.
And I will send it out to all of you before I go to have it print to get your approval on it before I send it off to the printer. No problem there, Toby.
I'm just looking to save paper.
Yep. Me too.
Yeah, right. You see the MSOC line, you know every page. It's wild to see that the values of Vashon properties have gone up 29% or whatever that was. That's just crazy.
If the board would not object, I can vamp a little bit and let you know what I've heard from around the state. This might also help in some of your communications. We're seeing probably on average statewide a 20% increase. The only counties that I have not yet seen that are a double digit would be Asotin and Wahkiakum. Some counties are actually seeing, specifically Lewis, we're seeing some districts get 40% or plus in assessed value growth. This is not limited to just Washington. As you know, housing inventory is incredibly low around the country. Yes, it is a tough time for people, but the demand is just outstripping everything else, even with the rise in mortgage rates. So again, as you're communicating with folks, I understand that it is hitting them personally on the island, but this is a statewide national issue. So to be honest, the average might be higher than 20%. I think I'm being somewhat conservative because not every county is giving me info yet.
And I think what the point that you brought home earlier in this meeting was, even though people's assessed property value is higher, our collections don't grow with that. We're
Not at that
collecting
rate.
a fixed amount, not a percent of the value, and so then proportionally the percent of the overall tax burden is staying at the 20% change, 20% change.
Yeah, and that's just because you're adding new, obviously.
Yeah.
Now, if there are other taxing jurisdictions like cities, they of course do get the 1% plus new construction, so it won't be the 28% there either. And of course, Vashon doesn't have an incorporated city there. But if other jurisdictions are adding on taxes by either vote or by regular tax levies, that would increase taxes. But from school districts, that's not how it works. It's only if you approve new.
Yeah, that's good.
Still waiting on a response from Mario.
Okay. And I just texted Allison to see if she could join us just for 2 minutes.
Yep,
I know.
I was just about to suggest that too.
Yeah, I know she had a other engagement. Maybe she can step out.
Yeah, if we can get Allison on, I would recommend we move just to the consent agenda. And as you indicated, Toby, push those other 3 decision items to the November meeting. I also texted Zabet just to ask.
Allison will join us in 2 minutes, and she literally has like 30 seconds.
That sounds great. We'll do that. The alternative is that we would have to have a special meeting sometime this weekend. So.
Right. I think Allison will join us
Great.
here just any second.
Yep. And seeing as we're still within our, scheduled time, I'm happy to wait to try to get some of it done.
Hey, Allison, thank you for joining us. I'm sorry to interrupt your evening. We would like to pass a couple of items, and we lost Marielle. So we have Callie, you, and I. So there's the first item was approving the school counseling transition plan. So if you have 30 seconds, we'll just bang through the 4 items.
Great.
So Callie, would you like to repeat your first motion to approve the comprehensive
Yes.
school counseling transition plan?
Motion to approve comprehensive school counseling transition plan.
Yeah.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The second up is there a motion to approve resolution number 803, the surplus?
So moved.
All right, is there a
Second.
second? Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The next one is a motion. Is there a motion to approve the board policy revision / adoption of policy 3411 and 3211, which is the transgender policy? And
Move to
3411
approve.
is, the students with seizure disorder and epilepsy policy.
Move to approve both policies.
Second.
All right, all in favor of approving both policies? Aye.
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 All right, did we do that right, Slade?
You are on track, and then we would want a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Allison, thank you very much. Good night.
I'm gonna go back and find my kid now. Thanks.
Thank you so much. All right. That's a little herky jerky with Zoom, but I think we did the appropriate procedure. So thank you. And then now that we've reached the end of our intended agenda, a couple minutes early, I move that we'll just go ahead and end the meeting now.
You just adjourn the meeting.
Yes, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. I'm pounding the gavel.